The Dallas Stars have been very competitive this year, and they are in a battle for first place in their division. Dane Lewis of Locked On Stars joins us to talk about their recent success, a milestone for Joe Pavelski, and all things Dallas Stars next on the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could join us today. And thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Dallas Stars, Dane Lewis. And Dane, first place again. It's been a tough battle, but this team, as we were discussing before we started to record, they are finding ways to win, and even when they don't win, they're getting close and they're picking up points.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right. This team very rarely has been blown out this season. A lot of competitive games, a lot of close games, and I mean, especially recently, the Stars are actually on Monday night closing out a 5-game road trip, all against Metro Division teams, and the first 4 of those teams are squads that will likely be in the playoff race, and several of them probably actually in the playoffs. And even Saturday night in Carolina, the Stars down by 2 with less than 10 minutes left in the third, and they find a way to tie it up and ultimately lose in overtime. But I mean, the Hurricanes in Carolina, never an easy outing for a road team. And I mean, the Stars seemed like they were down, but I mean, it's not that game. So many other games that, you know, we could talk for hours about what this team has done in terms of overtime and, you know, just finding ways to win games and being competitive.
Where do you think this resiliency comes from?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that, you know, myself and other people that cover this team have asked, you know, Pete DeBoer, the coach, and a few of the members of this team that are the leaders, your Pavelskis, your Jamie Benns, Tyler Sagans. And I think a big part of it is Pete DeBoer himself coming in. Of course, he's never going to say that about himself. He always is very quick to give credit to the players and his assistant coaches. But I think that he's just brought in this culture and, you know, style of play that all the players have bought into, and that there's just a belief in the locker room that the team is never out of a game. And, you know, we've seen that time and time again this season, but there's also several nights where the Stars jump out to leads and they hold on to those leads and they can get some pretty convincing wins over some pretty good teams. And so, not to say that previous coaches haven't had, you know, flashes of good culture or a healthy locker room, but I think that this year is just a little bit different. This locker room has really good chemistry, and I think that they've just bought into what DeBoer has brought with him from Vegas when, you know, the Stars picked him up and signed him to a deal this summer.
You mentioned Joe Pavelski earlier. He just recently played in his 1200th NHL game. Talk to me about that milestone and also what his veteran leadership has brought to this team.
It's hard to put like one word or a phrase on what his leadership has meant to this team since he's come. But yeah, 1,200 games. I mean, not many players get to see that number. And Joe Pavelski just continues to defy logic in this league. I mean, late 30s, he's played 15 plus seasons in the league. And I mean, of course, he was doing this with Rick Bowness last season and, you know, the previous seasons that he's been with this Stars team. But I think having his former coach come in has certainly, you know, bolstered that relationship. And I think he's been given a lot of responsibility in this locker room to be a leader and, of course, have influence on a lot of these younger guys. And, you know, that's on and off the ice. He's still one of, if not the hardest worker on the team. First guy out on the ice, typically the last guy to leave. And typically he has a rookie or a second year player close by, you know, picking up what he's putting down and learning how he, you know, handles himself on the ice, but also off the ice. I mean, a guy who's respected across the league. And I mean, you don't get to play 1,200 games without, you know, taking care of yourself and taking care of business both on and off the ice. And Pavelski continues to do that. And so I think that he just provides a ton of value to this team, both in his production. I mean, he's third in scoring with 31 points in 32 games. So nearly a point per game player in his late 30s. And it's a little uncertain what his future looks like because this is the last year of his deal. But if he can continue to play at a high level, I imagine that there will be some sort of discussion about maybe him coming back for at least one more season. But that's a conversation for a different day.
we have to talk about Jason Robertson. The point streak is over, but the amazing production that he's had this season, 23 goals, 46 points in 32 games. What has he meant to this team, and what does he do so well that leads him to this success?
Mm. I mean, he's meant everything to this team. I mean, you take him away and let's say you go back to the offseason and the Stars don't get a deal worked out and he's not on this team. I don't think the Stars are close to a playoff spot. I mean, they have other good pieces, but Jason Robertson has been the heart and the soul of the offense in terms of the goals and even finding ways to get assists as well. I mean, 46 points is, I know, somewhere in the top 10 amongst the league. I know there's a few other guys that have jumped over him a little bit as of late, but I mean, he just does a little bit of everything. He is still growing on the defensive side of the ice, but in terms of offense, I mean, he's effective on the 5-on-5, effective on the power play. I mean, just a threat from anywhere on the ice. And he just provides tremendous value offensively. And I think has, set a new standard for some guys that maybe they want a nice contract or they, are questioning whether or not they should hold out around training camp and want to wait till the last second because Robertson never did training camp, didn't play in a preseason game. I mean, signed his deal right before the season started, and look what he's done. So I can only imagine that that's going to potentially start a trend in the future, and guys will have Jason Robertson to thank for that. But I'm not sure what he did with his time off or time away from the team in order to be prepared. But whatever it is, it's worked, and he's been phenomenal this season.
One little thing that the Stars do very well that maybe doesn't get a lot of headlines, they are very good in the face-off circle. I mean, Tyler Seguin, certainly very good. Jamie Benn, and even Luke Glendening, who is not, very productive offensively, but in the face-off dot, he's been very, very good. How important is success in the face-off circle to the Dallas Stars?
It's very important, and it's something that I think they've taken a lot of pride in over the past several years. I mean, a lot of those guys you mentioned, Ben, Sagan, they've been here for, years now. I mean, they're staples of the team, but even Luke Glendening, Radek Faksa, Rope Hens can go in there too and win a few draws, Joe Pavelski. And this is something that the Stars play-by-play guys like to touch on a lot, is that almost anytime the Stars are skating, especially 5-on-5, you always have at least two, if not three guys on the ice that can win a faceoff. And so especially if it's a close game, I mean, the later you get into a game or you get into overtime, those faceoffs become increasingly more important if you're trying to clear your own zone or if you need to win the faceoff on offense and try to get the puck on net with not too much time left. I mean, the Stars have done a really good job of that this season. And they of course have the defensemen set up as well that can, fire the puck, whether that's Miro Heiskanen or Niels Lundqvist. So that, I mean, the Stars have scored quite a few goals off faceoffs this season and even a few here over the past week or two. And so it's very important and something that I agree. I think it's an underrated aspect of this team. And if you ask a Stars fan this season what they do well, they'll say, they forecheck well, they score well, they have good goaltending. But you might be fourth or fifth on the list in terms of what the average Stars fan may tell you, but it's one of the most important parts of their game for sure.
Another important part, obviously, goaltending. Talk to me about the success they've had there.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of an up and down season. Both guys, Jake Oettinger and Scott Wedgwood, dealing with some injuries off and on, but thankfully none of them have been, too major or too extreme. But both guys playing pretty well right now. They've been very productive. Jake Oettinger, especially as of late. Of course, the headline after the game on Thursday night in Washington was, he was told pregame, if Ovechkin scores or if he scores twice, the bench is going to clear. That building in DC was going to erupt loud, and so I think that gave him a little bit extra motivation to shut down Ovechkin and keep him, delayed from passing Gordie Howe for second all time on the goals list. And so outside of that, playing really well. And Scott Wedgwood, I think certainly has a case to be, named one of, if not the best backup in the league. I mean, I think he could be a starter on a lot of teams in this league, but yet he finds himself here in Dallas backing up Jake, but he still gets quite a few reps. And I know Coach DeBoer likes to, spread out how much often he has to use Jake Oettinger because he is young. He still has a lot of miles left, but you also want to take care of your goalies and make sure that they stay healthy because we all know just watching this game that, I mean, it doesn't take a lot for something to go wrong for a goalie. And if they get too injured too early, I mean, their careers can go off the rails a little bit. So the Stars have a good starter, but they also have a really good backup in Scott Wedgwood who can go out and put the team in a good spot just about any night.
Dane, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, so they can find me on social media, just on Twitter at Dane _Lewis. And they can, of course, find all things Locked On Stars on Twitter and Instagram. Just type in that name. And then on YouTube as well, podcasting platforms. We're always free and available on those, just like the Locked On NHL show. And yeah, that's just about anywhere that you can find myself and Locked On Stars content.
All right, Dane, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product I literally use every day. I started taking AG1 because I'm not a great pill taker, and I didn't want to have to take 5, 6, 8 pills every day in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All these things. And it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.